I'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting of June 19th, and I'd like to start off by calling the roll.
Dr. Beebe. Present. Dr. Beebe is present. Ms. Bofi. Here. Ms. Bofi is present. Ms. Bradford. Here. Ms. Bradford is present. Mr. Garvey. Here. Mr. Garvey is present. Mr. Gio.
Present.
Mr. Gio is present. Ms. Hill.
Present.
Ms. Hill is present. Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Lee is present. Dr. Moranti.
Present.
Dr. Moranti is present. Ms. Orange Jones is absent. Mr. Romer.
Here.
Mr. Romer is present, and Mr. Wagensback is absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you. We'd like to begin with everyone standing for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be led by Mari Jackson, who is a student at Somerset Academy Charter School in Miami, Florida. I'd like to invite her forward. And the pledge will be given by Superintendent Patrice Peugeot. Please come forward, Mari. And the opening prayer. Opening prayer.
There we go. Mara, you're up. It should be on. You have her use her witness count.
Yeah, there you go.
Bow your heads and close your eyes. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to pray for this day, for all the people that are here. Bless them when they go home inside the rain. I want you to bless us all here to be under your glory, God. I want to bless all the children and people that have to suffer for some insignificant things. And amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
I'd like to recognize Ms. Jackson again, who had a few comments, and please proceed.
I am Amaria Jackson, presently in the 6th grade. I attend Somerset Academy, Central Miramar, in Miramar, Florida, Broward County Public Schools. Today's invocation will be a version of Dr. Theodore Seuss' Gazelle, Oh, the Places You'll Go, published in 1990. Oh, the places you'll go, and one place is the great state of Louisiana, known as the Bayou Territory, Mardi Gras World, and Sportsman's Paradise. How about our New Orleans Saints? Congratulations to all of our parents, students, administrators, teachers, counselors, and nevertheless the astounding BESE board members for a successful school year. Yes, we are off to great places, and we are on our way to make an impact in the world of education. We have brains in our head, we have feet in our shoes, and we will steer ourselves in any direction we choose. Loyola University, Wesleyan University, Harvard University, University of Louisiana Lafayette, Northwestern State University, Louisiana Tech University, Southern University, and Louisiana State University. When we look up and down streets with our heads full of brains and our shoes full of feet, we are too smart to go down any not-so-good street. The street we will travel as students are the paths to STEM as a biologist, chemist, or mathematician. As I travel along some more, the gateway will lead to a congressman, senator, governor, or even a president. But why not travel the road as a creator, inventor, or explorer of the world? As we proceed with today's BESE agenda, there is more certainly fun to be done. there may be points to be scored. Above all, with our BESE guests, we are on our way up. We will see great sights. We will join high flyers and soar to high heights. Once again, thanks to all for a wonderful invocation.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Next, I'd like to move to the approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
And at the appropriate time, we'll pull items as needed. But I heard approval of the agenda in a second. In a second, any objection? Hearing none, so moved. I'll do it in a second. The next item is the approval of minutes, which is normally fairly routine. We do have two amendments to those minutes that we need to take care of prior to the approval of those minutes. One is in regard to the waivers that we did regarding librarians. I would like to, who will recognize to make the change in the language?
I can read them and then you need a motion.
Okay. If you will read that, and then I'll invite the speakers to come forward on that item as well.
The two requested amendments are first to motion 5.1.12, and it is to add a bullet which will include the language, direct the state superintendent of education to inform the board via a report to the academic goals and instructional improvement committee prior to his approval or denial of any waiver request pertaining to section 1705, school libraries and media centers, and then the bullet would progress. The second amendment is to motion 5.2.8, and it is amending the amount to be $281,000 instead of $1,260,471.
So before we approve those changes or consider those changes, I'd like to invite, we do have some cards regarding the first amendment, and I'd like to invite those speakers to quickly, if they'd all come down at once, that would be great. I'd like to recognize Representative Barbara Norton, and Stephanie Bronstein, Charlene Richelieu. Okay, I apologize, and Dawn Pinkston. And board members, just as a quick background, if you remember, at a previous board meeting, we considered changes to Bulletin 741 in regard to libraries and librarians, and we changed that original consideration, and Representative Norton and others have expressed interest in how we would proceed in this practice. So I'd like to first recognize Representative Barbara Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And make sure is your button pressed? I'm sorry. We're having...
First, let me say good afternoon to you, Mr. Chairman, and to John White and to this board. It is indeed an honor and a great opportunity to come before you all on behalf of the children and the parents of the state of Louisiana. And I certainly want to recognize Mr. Lee, who is from North Louisiana, and say thank you all for the opportunity. I come before you all today with a concern in reference to those districts having an opportunity to be able to opt out of having elementary and middle school libraries. And if I may bag up for just a minute or two, I would hope that in the event that I come back again, that I will have an opportunity to see a great young lady from a public school. I know you all did charter a few minutes ago, but hopefully that you all would have someone from the public school as well to do a prayer. Thank you all. She did a beautiful job. And let me go back to where I was. I am concerned about the fact that if there is a change in the process of our children being able to utilize libraries, and those libraries are done away with, and they are going to a computer system, I'm concerned about those parents who would not have an opportunity nor have the funding to purchase computers. And if they are able to purchase computers, I'm concerned about how would they pay for the website and the internet. I know without a doubt, I have grandchildren that are in school. My children has graduated and they're out of school, but I know that there's a lot of resources that are in the libraries. And there is information that those children have to take home. And when I think about doing away with the library and maybe replacing it with computers Technology is good. That's where we're going today. But when I think about those little ones and everybody not being able to purchase those computers, I am concerned. I am also concerned about the fact that those districts who would choose to opt out, that they will go before our superintendent, John White. And right now, I know no information of oversight. I know no information of oversight. I think there should be some oversight. But I'm also here today because you and I talked, and we talked about the fact that you was going to make a presentation, and you was going to make us aware of how this was going to work without books, without material, but with computers. And I'm here today, all the way from Shreveport, to hear that because I want to know how can we provide the same services for those children without books, without hand material, and without the resources that they need. I want to make sure, as a legislator, I want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to make sure that we're providing the greatest and the best education that we can. So our children will be able to compete with other children in other states. And I believe, without a doubt, unless I'm proven wrong, I believe that there is no way possible that you can show me that you can provide the same services with libraries and with books and with hand material that you can do with computers, but all those children cannot. When they want to take a book home to read it out of the library, they can't go to a computer because they don't have a computer. When they want to take material, they can't take material because they have computer. And let me say this to you all. I am listening, I am looking, and I want to hear you all's presentation because you made a commitment in the meeting, in the educational committee. You made a commitment that you would do a presentation to show us exactly how that's going to work.
I appreciate
and
your
I'm
comment.
hoping and praying that your word is good because that's why I'm here today. But I thank you all so much for your effort and those things that you all are doing for our state. But let me say this to you. It's not about us. It's not about me. It's not about you all, but it is about our children.
Appreciate
and I'm
your
here
comments.
for that presentation.
Thank you. Well, the presentation I said you would see would be how we would handle a waiver request. That's the presentation that I said you would receive, and that's what you're receiving. So I appreciate your comments today. I'd like to invite the other speakers.
Your presentation in the education committee was that you were going to give an overview.
No, what
of
I said
exactly
is
how
let me be clear
that it
about
was
what I
gonna be
said.
presented.
What I said was each waiver request would have to outline, in fact, how they're going to provide the services.
A
Because
waiver
that's the
doesn't
statute.
tell us exactly what you're going to do to replace a library if you do away with it.
Okay.
A waiver doesn't tell us
I
that.
appreciate your
A
comment.
waiver is just giving them an opportunity to get a waiver to not have it. That's
No.
not what you said
No,
in committee.
no. I'm going to remind you that
if you're not going to stick
if I
to
may,
your word,
if I
then we're going
may,
to have a problem.
If I may, the statute requires the services to be provided. The language that remains in the bulletin says these services must be provided. However, if the school would like to consider an alternative means of providing the services, they can ask for a waiver, and that waiver would have to outline how they would provide those services.
Do you have
So
that information today that I can
it's
take
in,
you back?
it's in the bulletin that we passed as a board. Okay, in fact, it's the same language that was in the bulletin prior to us having the meeting. It's the same language. The services must be provided. The only thing we've suggested is that perhaps us determining at the state level how those services provided is not necessarily the best way to do it. And that if locals had the opportunity to provide it differently or better, they could ask us for a waiver, and that waiver would be considered by the superintendent. And what we've outlined today is the policy on which that waiver would be presented to BESE. So I appreciate your comments.
So
Thank
let me ask you a question.
I appreciate your comments.
Are you saying that you're going to give the options to those districts to come up with the way that they're going to provide those same services? Is that what you're saying right now?
That's what-
Because that was not what you said in the meeting, in the education committee meeting. You were going to lay out the process of how
The
those
process,
waivers was
which
going
is
to be done.
exactly what we're doing, Ms. Norton. I
Okay.
respect, with all due respect, I'm outlining the process by which someone could request a waiver.
I understand that.
Okay,
I
that's what I
understand
said I was
requesting
gonna
a
do.
waiver, but a waiver
Please.
is not the process
Okay.
on how we're going to replace that library. That's not the same.
Inherent,
That's not the same.
and this is the last comment, I appreciate your comments.
I appreciate
Inherent,
your comments too.
and inherent in a waiver request would be an outline of how you intend on providing these services. Okay, because the law requires, and this BESE board requires, that the services be provided. Now, if you want to provide them differently than what is outlined traditionally in Bulletin 741, you can ask the superintendent for that waiver, but it must outline how those services will be provided.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All I'm saying is, as long as those services doesn't deviate from making sure that those children have the same opportunities that they have
And
now.
you and I agree on that.
As long as we on that page, and as long as they do that, you all won't have to worry about seeing me. But if they don't do that, you will have to worry about seeing me. Thank y'all so much.
I appreciate you driving down, Representative. Thank you. Stephanie?
Hi. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. I'm going to address, address what Representative Norton just said. Yes, we are all on the same page. I believe that what we want, originally, of course, what we would have wanted is to not have the waivers at all. I mean, let's be honest. We would prefer not to have that as an option. But if it is a required option, then what we want to do is, again, make sure, as Representative Norton said, and as you've just said, essentially, that the waiver is, in the waiver itself, it's required to outline what policies and procedures would be in place of the ones that are standard, and how they would actually accomplish the goals of the normal policies and procedures. It couldn't just be something where someone says, well, I decided I don't really have enough funding to do this right now, so can you give me a waiver? And then there's a stamp that says, yes, fine, you've got a waiver. We
Agree.
Definitely don't want that. But I'm going to back up for just a bit, and on June 4th, I had written a letter to Heather Cope and asked that it be sent over to you folks at the board. And I had asked that some of the language actually in Bulletin 741 be more specific about how that procedure would be done. I asked that all requests for exceptions would have to be made in writing. I believe that that's sort of a given at this point, right? There's not going to be any just discussion that's handshake. All requests for exceptions must be published in an officially established publication easily available to all citizens. You can address that, because I'm not 100% sure what that means from your side of it. I was thinking something along the lines of the Louisiana Register. After publication, a comment period of no less than 60 days be allowed for interested parties to respond and make suggestions, amendments. And you and I, Mr. Roma, talked about how that was something that you wanted to specifically address when we showed up today, so I'll let you do that as well. A possibility of a physical venue for a public hearing must be available upon request by interested parties. And again, probably the most important bullet point is all requests for exceptions must include detailed justifications for the exceptions, including any and all fiscal considerations. Now, you had just recently, at the beginning of this, you had read an amendment. Can you repeat the language of that, please? Because I think that partially addresses my concerns.
Sure. I'll have staff do that.
So the amendment will read that the board will direct the state superintendent of education to inform the board via a report to the Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee prior to his approval or denial of any waiver request pertaining to Section 1705, school libraries and media centers.
Okay, so my understanding that when it's via that committee, is the waiver first going to whom? To you, Mr. White, personally? Is that the first place that the waiver request would go? And then that would be, your decision would be reported back to the committee rather than the other way around?
This motion would have the state superintendent report to the board that he has received a request, and then per any other requests or waiver request the superintendent grants, they always are provided to the board at a report.
So it's reported back to us whether the waiver was granted or not, and the justification for that. And that's a public forum when that happens.
Okay. All right. So can you actually then address that couple of things that I had asked you to go back to? So you're saying that would then qualify as a publishing it in an official document source?
It's an official board document that we publish publicly,
Okay.
online, and other ways as well.
Okay, I want to make sure that the public at large will have access to this, because I know how to use your website and so forth. It does not mean that everybody else has that capacity, quite frankly. It's a little, there's some things buried there, let's put it that way. Okay, and then,
And if we can kind of keep going,
right, just a second, but I just wanted to make sure that, what kind of time frame are we talking about? So if someone asks puts in a request for a waiver, it goes directly to the superintendent. What are we talking about in time before it has to be acted upon?
There are periods. What they're trying to do, and I don't want to interpret it, but is to try to put it within BESE policy, so you're not making a whole set of new rules. There are already timelines for BESE that BESE's already written. For example, everything that goes in the BESE agenda has to be published online 10 days in advance of it being in front of the board. So this falls under that as well. So now, whether that means if you get it 11 days before, obviously you only have 1 day between when it's received and when you get it 30 days before, then you have 20 days between when you received it and when it went on. But it's going to go up 10 days before the meeting.
Okay.
And I would assume his ability to make that decision depends on the thoroughness of the waiver request. And so, in some instances, he may be able to make the decision immediately, yes or no. In others, it may require a longer period of time. Our standard code of business is that any public waiver request or any other business that we do goes online no less than 10 days prior to us hearing it. No less than.
Okay. Is there a specific form that a waiver is used?
Well, we would really need to get the regulation in place first, and then
Okay.
the department will go and develop a form.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything?
Mr. Roma, may I ask a question, please? If I'm
Yes.
allowed? So, in essence, yesterday, the committee approved a waiver request for elementary French. That was a waiver process. So, in essence, as I understand the explanation rendered, we will adhere to that same process. The superintendents will write a letter or submit a form to Superintendent White, who in turn will make his decision and notify BESE through this document.
That's correct. It's a little bit different than yesterday, only in that that particular waiver was granted is law, that waiver has to be granted, versus this waiver doesn't have to be granted, is only to be considered. So there's a small difference, but generally, yes, the same process.
But I also don't want to give these individuals false hope in the sense that, superintendents have to they will be required to make these decisions. If they ask for a waiver, I'm sure it's due to budgetary constraints or concerns. And so thus, the reason for the request to Superintendent White. So again, the language is written as it is, saying that the waiver is then offered to, submitted to Superintendent White to act upon. But so it's not really stating that you will be assured that you will have the library services in place. As I understand it, however, the superintendent would then have to alter the explanation of how he or she will achieve that means of providing librarian services.
If I may just for a moment. Yeah, that's to me, that's explicit in the point that the waiver must clarify the justification. It can't just be, I would like a waiver, thank you very much. It has to be, I would like a waiver, and here's A, B, C, D reasons why.
Mr. Chair.
The statute still requires the services to be provided. So you can't get a waiver from providing a service. Now, you may have an alternative means of providing, and you need to outline that. But, Ms. Bradford, and then if we could ask you if we, go ahead.
Clarification.
Yes.
That on this form that we developed for application for waiver, that there would be some format or some place for them to put what their alternative services would perhaps look like. Is that generally what happens?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming today. I don't know if you had it, and I hope.
We just strongly feel that.
Can you state your name for
we
the
appreciate
record?
the opportunity, and thank you all. You had a very long day yesterday, and thank you for hearing us today.
but we know that you understand that our services are needed each and every day. But as we move into these new regulations and new fields and things, the library is the informational center of the school. And however we can work with this, but we still want to be considered, and when we have the waivers, that's what we would like to be there. Because we do. This is what we do with students every day.
Do you mind stating your name real quick?
Dawn Pinkston,
Okay.
retired Lincoln
All right.
Parish.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate y'all coming today.
I have an addition. I sat in on the meeting just before this when y'all spoke, y'all had the joint meeting with the regents.
Yes, ma'am.
And y'all spoke of redefining the guidance counselors and their jobs and what they do. And one of them is the career and college readiness. And yes, their plates are full, and yes, they're having to do quite a bit. But you have on campus already staff in the form of a school librarian, an information technologist. And when Mr. Wiley asked, how were you going to put the information and the resources in the hands of students and parents so that they can make an informed choice on their career or their college, if that is the pathway, I think was the term that was used, when they're making an informed choice of what they're going to do. This is where school librarians come into play, because we provide services that deal with reading.
We don't disagree with that. I mean, I
Okay.
appreciate your point. And in fact, several members have already came to me following the same discussion with that point,
Yes.
that very point. So I appreciate your comments very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
May I say that I like when people come to us with solutions, so thank you.
Board members, we have a motion to receive and amend the minutes. And actually, I need a motion to receive the minutes as amended. Mr. Garvey, to approve the minutes, I'm sorry. Approve the minutes as amended. Mr. Garvey and Mr. Lee, is there any objection? Hearing none, so moved. We'll move to the report by the State Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to distribute just a quick bit of background information for members. Members, I'm distributing our Louisiana Believes annual report to you in a paper copy. This is available online on our landing page at louisianabelieves.com. It's just a 4-page report that was also emailed to you last week, and it details our activities as a state education system over the course of the last year, and it forecasts some priorities for the coming year, none of which have yet to be rolled out. But I thought I might just walk through it for a second, just so you have an overview of it in case it's helpful to you. Again, for members of the public, it's right on our homepage at louisianabelieves.com. The first page notes are some of our most up-to-date outcomes. We don't yet have final outcomes on advanced placement and on the ACT, but we do have outcomes in every other one of our core goals or critical goals. And you will see that kindergarten readiness, 4th grade level proficiency, 9th grade on time, college readiness in 9th grade, college readiness in 11th grade, and cohort graduation rate, as well as first-time freshmen in college. On all of those numbers, we are increasing, which is great news and a real credit to the educators across the state. There's not a single one of our critical goals in which we've decreased. I will say that I think no secret to anybody, when the ACT results come back, which should be next week, there will likely be, because we're going from 65% to 100% or 99% taking the test, there will likely be a dip, as there has been in other states. I think it is not nearly as large as the dip that has been forecasted by some pundits and by the media. But nevertheless, the outcomes are positive in terms of student progress. We've noted just an update in 3 areas. Number 1, the area to adopt higher expectations for our kids through accountability and through standards. Second, we've talked about the strategies that we're using in curriculum, teacher effectiveness work, technology, on principal quality, on teacher leadership, and on new school creation, as well as special education, to really empower educators to adjust and adopt new expectations for student learning. And we've talked about parental choices in the end and steps that we've taken to provide additional school choices. We're also have talked a little bit about the diploma path work that we did discuss earlier today. On the final page, we just briefly summarize priorities for next year, and just to highlight a few of them. Clearly, we need to do even more to communicate with our parents in particular and our students about the new expectations for student learning. I think that's a critical piece of work over the course of the next year. We also are going to expand our early childhood networks. Currently, we have 17 across the state. We are certainly going to expand that good work that's underway as well. In terms of belief in our educators, we're very focused on every teacher participating in a collaborative review of student work and on getting actionable feedback from their peers and from administrators over the course of the year. Our teacher leaders, as well as our networks, are going to lead the way in so much of that implementation. And finally, as we discussed this morning, while we're going to expand the Recovery School District's purview to other groups of struggling schools, we're going to not just focus on choice for those in struggling schools, but we're also going to focus on choice of college and career pathways as well. And as you know, that's been a big source of discussion this morning over the last couple of weeks and will continue to be. We really need to get to a point where we have one diploma that has a couple of pathways in terms of achieving it, and where every student who graduates with a Louisiana diploma has a credential that readies them for a next step, not just for whatever it's kind of up to them. They really need to make a choice and be credentialed for a next step after high school, and focusing on that work is critical. Mr. Chairman, that summarizes the Louisiana Believes annual report. I'm happy to talk about details related to it, but thank you for the opportunity to discuss.
No, I appreciate it. I don't know if any member has a, Ms. Hill?
Okay, on page 4, the RSD Beyond New Orleans, which is the district that I represent. And to me, you guys are trying to recruit 6 high-quality charter school organizations into the Baton Rouge area. But one of the things that I'm finding within East Baton Rouge is that the parents and the community, they don't trust RSD. So they're opting out and they're sending their kids to EBR. So if that's the case, because the numbers for RSD dropped tremendously this year, I believe you guys lost like maybe 800 students to EBR. So I don't really see the need if parents are opting to not send their kids to the Recovery School District when we talk about parental choice, and they're willing to have their child bus from one area to another area just so their child can attend EBR schools. So help me understand this point.
Well, I think I would say this. I think when it comes to student movement in East Baton Rouge Parish, the phrase "willing to" is a dubious one. A lot of parents are being moved in Baton Rouge not by their choice. Second of all, it's clear that both East Baton Rouge Parish and the state have struggled to turn around the lowest performing schools in East Baton Rouge Parish. Look, we have 24 F-rated schools in this parish. Most of them are governed by the East Baton Rouge system. Some of them are governed by the Recovery School District. But what I would say is that we have a plan to place high-quality charter schools. We've recruited 100 applicants from across the country to our charter pipeline this year. Many of them are in Baton Rouge. In fact, a full third of them have applied for schools in Baton Rouge. And Baton Rouge is the largest application site in the state. And we're going to place those high-performing operators into schools that are low-performing. Now, you can compare that to East Baton Rouge's plan, which is to convert F-rated schools to pre-K centers and magnet programs and forcibly remove the students and send them across the city. I prefer the plan that keeps the kids in the schools and tries to turn them around by having a high-quality principal and teachers.
Well, I'm not going to have this debate because you know you and I would differ on that. But I guess my concern when you look at the finance piece of it on a state level is that if the need is not there, why put the money there?
I call 24 F-rated schools and 12,000 kids in F-rated schools, I call that a need.
But the kids are not going there. 800 students, RSD lost 800 students this year.
I'm the first to agree with you.
More.
The parents don't want to send their kids to an F-rated school, whether it's RSD.
I appreciate both of your comments. I'd like to recognize Holly Bofi now for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you very much. This is a privilege, President Romer, in that I get to announce the finalists. We have finalists for Teacher of the Year. That would be State Teacher of the Year and Principal of the Year with us today. We had interviews here in this building on Monday of both our state finalists for Principal of the Year and Teacher of the Year, and it was a very inspiring day. So I got to start my week off very well. Just to give you a little idea about the process is that districts are able to select a Teacher of the Year. From that process, the Teachers of the Year submitted application. This year, the application included student data, reflections on student progress, and how the teachers are adjusting their instruction to meet students' needs, and how they're making the shift to the Common Core state standards, which was referenced a little earlier. Also, as part of the application is a video of teachers teaching. And so if you want to entice me to go back in the classroom, you start showing me videos of teachers teaching. They were observed, I think for the first time this year. It was part of the process for our network teams to go out into the schools and observe teachers. And I might add that I believe these were unannounced observations. Is that right? So I can only imagine how these teachers felt when people showed up into their classrooms. But I do think they would all agree that it's an important part of the process for people to really see you in action, because the camera can only capture so much, right? And then we had, as I said, the interviews just the other day. Now, on Friday, July 12th, we are having a celebration of educators. It is the 7th annual Cecil J. Picard Educator Excellence Symposium. And at this Educator Excellence Symposium, we will find out who our Principal and Teachers of the Year are. And so that will be a wonderful day that will involve both a celebration and recognition, but also a day of professional development. So it is one of my favorite days of the year, and I can't wait to see everybody. We have lots of teachers from out the state who will be joining us that day, and so it'll be really exciting. So I'm going to introduce to you the Principal of the Year finalists first. We have Mr. Pethe is from Luling Elementary in St. Charles Parish. St. Charles Parish. And you can go ahead and come up. I'm going to ask Superintendent White and President Romer to meet you on the floor, and if there's not a photographer, then I double as a photographer as well. I can take care of that. And we have Ben Nikes. Ben is from West Feliciana Middle School. We have Buffy Fagenbush. She's from Berwick High School in St. Tammany Parish. Julie Berner from J.C. Ellis Elementary School in Jefferson Parish. And Leslie Martin is from Marigny Elementary in St. Tammany Parish. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you. I can't wait to see you guys. And now, for our Teacher of the Year finalists, I just want to say I hope you guys are taking close notes, because you will be joining the board, and because our Teacher of the Year sits on our Educator Effectiveness Committee. And so you'll join us for the committee meetings. They take place on the first day. You don't have to stay for all 4. It lasted 13 and a half hours yesterday, just the one committee. And we usually do that one first, so you can come in, contribute, and then you can go on your way. So I just want to say that I think our state has made tremendous progress in listening to teacher voice. We have now our Teacher of the Year serving on our Educator Effectiveness Committee. We have our teacher leaders who are doing the hard work with the designing curriculum resources for our teachers to choose from, and our superintendent has pulled together teacher advisory panels. And so teacher voice is very much a part of the process, and I look forward to hearing you guys exercise that teacher voice. So let's meet our teachers. We have Casey Evie from Central Middle School and the Central Community Schools. Yeah, come on. You have to take a picture with those two. You have Connie Abear from Welsh Elementary in Jefferson Davis. We have Jenny Traha from Oakshire Elementary in Terrebonne Parish. We have Lakeisha McKinney from R.J. Vile Elementary School in St. Charles Parish. And Colette Williams from Golden Meadow Middle School.
Is it?
It was a privilege to serve on the selection committee, and we appreciate you all being here and everything that you do in our classrooms every day in our schools. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bophy, and congratulations again to each of you from this board. We know your commitment is tremendous in time and effort, so it really is very appreciated. And thank you for coming here today, and congratulations again. We'll move now to board committee reports. Item 5.1.
Ms. Bradford.
Yes, on behalf of the Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee, I move to approve motions 1 through 6, 8 through 10, noting that motions 8, 9, and 10 are notices of intent, and pulling item 7.
We need a second for that motion. A second by Dr. Moranti. Should we approve the items first? Is there any objection to items that were up for approval? Hearing none, so moved. Item 7. I think Dr. Beebe requested item 7.
Okay, item 7. I wanted to address the Accountability Commission membership.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I noticed that Mr. John Bennett, who I have the greatest respect for, has been approved by the committee. But again, I feel that I have a responsibility to bring forward today the fact that he recently resigned as a BESE member, and there may be some prohibition by law that would that he should not serve on a committee, and just wanted to bring it to your attention.
You know, I'm not certain, and I appreciate you bringing that attention. Why don't we do this? Let us verify, and if that needs to be amended and changed, then I'll notify the board, and we'll do so.
Well, I'm almost certain it is a requirement, but nevertheless.
Do we have an answer to that now, or is that something we would?
Why don't we make sure that we get an answer by the end of this meeting from a lawyer?
And so if it's okay, let's approve it, but if we need to come back.
Well, I'm just going to abstain, but that's okay.
Oh, we can defer this particular, can we defer this particular item?
We can
and
come back to
it?
this at the end.
At the end? Okay. Does that suit the pleasure of the board? We'll defer on item 7 within 5.1, revisit it before the end of the meeting.
I don't personally believe it's a conflict.
I don't think it is either,
Yeah.
but let's see if we can verify that. So I think that was a good point. So let's
Yeah.
move to item 5.2, and we will return to item 7 within 5.1.
Mr. Yo.
On behalf of the Admin and Finance Committee, I move to approve items 1 through 28 and 38 through 137, pulling item 29.
Second.
There's a motion and there is a second. Is there approval of the items for approval? Motion for approval? So moved. And second? Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. And you pulled an item?
Item 29.
I think it was Ms. Beebe on item 29. I believe that's the MFP task force.
Oh, yes. I would like for us to revisit this item, and I know Mr. Walter Lee made the motion yesterday or a substitute motion to have the LSBA representative in lieu of a district board member. So I would like to offer a motion to that effect and would ask Mr. Lee to second my motion since he presented that motion yesterday.
I will, even though I didn't agree with your refusing to accept it yesterday.
So
I'm
I think
making
that is a
amends.
strong
I'm trying to
second.
make amends, Mr. Lee.
I think that was a strong second. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'm going to clarify the motion. Would you state it one more time? Ms.
I
Beebe,
move
Dr. Beebe, sorry.
to allow a representative from the Louisiana School Boards Association to serve on the task force committee in lieu of a district school board member.
That's the motion, and there's a second. Is there any objection to that motion? Hearing none, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
The next item is item 5.3, Committee of the Whole, RSD Matters Only, Administration and Finance Committee. Mr. Garvey?
Yes. On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, Administration and Finance Committee, I move approval of items 1 through 8.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a second. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, so moved. Next item.
The next item is item 5.4, Committee of the Whole, RSD Matters Only, School Innovation and Turnaround Committee. Mr. Garvey?
Yes, on behalf of the Committee of the Whole, School Innovation and Turnaround Committee, I move approval of items 1 through 7.
Is there a second?
Second.
And there's a second. Is there any objection? Hearing none, so moved. Next item.
Where is
We'll come back to 5. Let's go to 5.6. We'll come back to 5.5.
Okay. Do we have to move to say 5.6 out of order?
No.
Okay. The next item would be item 5.6, School Innovation and Turnaround Committee. Mr. Garvey?
Yes, on behalf of the School Innovation and Turnaround Committee, I move approval for items 1 through 9, noting that item 9 is a notice of intent.
I'll second that.
And there's a second. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. We'll go back to item 5.5. Okay, do it. Go. I apologize, Ms. Bowie's not back yet. Item 6.
Item 6.1 is to receive the resolution from the Caddo Parish School Board regarding adoption of recommendations for school librarians and libraries.
Move to accept.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
move that we receive.
There's a motion to receive. There is a card on this item. Melanie Sims. I don't know if she needs to speak again on this particular item. Okay, thank you. So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I will note that this was received prior to the action we took a month ago, but any objection? Hearing none, so moved. Who else is on 5.5? Ms. Beebe, would you mind taking item 5.5 for us to read since Ms. Bophy is not here?
So you want me to offer a motion to approve?
Yes, and I believe you also wanted to pull an item.
Yes, and I want
on this one.
to pull the item 4.1 that deals with consideration of presentation regarding local implementation of Compass.
Okay, so the motion would be to approve items 1 through 6, but pulling agenda item
It's motion 3.
pulling motion 3, which deals with agenda item 4.1. Is there a second for that motion? Is there any objection to that motion?
Yes, I thought we were also going to pull item 6.
We'll pull item 6. So we're pulling item 3 and item 6, but we're moving for approval of items 1 through 5. Is there a motion to that effect? Yes, by Ms. Bradford. Is there a second? Mr. Lee? Any objection? Hearing none, so moves. Ms. Beebe, item 3, I believe you requested to be pulled, which deals with agenda item 4.1 on consideration of a presentation regarding local implementation of Compass.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So am I? Okay, I'm up. Well, I'd like to begin by thanking all of the educators throughout Louisiana, our teachers and our school leaders, and it's unfortunate that the group we just recognized left the building. But I as a district administrator, I recognize the efforts of our teachers, particularly with the hasty implementation of reform initiatives. And I also, reflecting back at our meeting yesterday, towards the end of the meeting, it became a little bit unpleasant, some of the comments made. And I do recognize that it's a sad day in Louisiana when I look at my profession, the teaching profession, and we pit groups against each other, for example, traditional educators and TFA, and I recognize the challenges of classroom teachers, and my comments made yesterday were not to cast negative light on the TFA, the individual core members, because I know they're here to do a job. And I also recognize as a district administrator that one day I may have to reach out to Teach for America because of the massive exodus of teachers. And so I just wanted to make note of this fact. Again, it's not anything personal against the TFA. My issue with the TFA contract approved yesterday was with the fact that TFA serves as a staffing agency, and I think that we have the opportunity here in Louisiana to knock on the door of our deans. And I do take issue with some comments made by our leader, who more or less indicated that the teachers in Louisiana who go through the teacher preparation programs in Louisiana don't meet the standards of those outside of our state. And so I wanted to make that comment. Also, when we talk about, I heard the presentation this morning by our joint meeting, Board of Regents and BESE, more students graduating than ever before, fewer students dropping out, more students are on grade level, ACT and AP exams are up. Also, the fact that enrollment in higher education is up by 10%, completion is up by 32%. Graduation rates are up by 4.4%. So how does this happen? We do have quality educators in the classroom. And, you know, the insinuation that we don't, Mr. White, it is unacceptable to me. Also, getting back to the item at hand, my concerns with Compass, St. Martin Parish was involved as a pilot district. And certainly we went, as you know, and I've communicated it often, we removed ourselves from Dr. Strong's rubric. We went to the Danielson rubric. And my criticism is not the fact that we are engaging our teachers in an evaluation process, because we've done it for years. But my objection, my strong objection, is to the fact that we have 33% of our teacher population held to higher standards or higher expectations than we do for the 67% who are required to write SLTs. As a district administrator, the writing of the student learning targets, the SLTs, I would say from personal experience, experience within my district, I would venture to say that no SLT would be, when compared, would likely have the same rigor. And I'm saying that within my district, and then also I'm sure that is the case moving outside of the district. Also, it's frustrating with the HCIS now, the change from HCIS to CIS, and I presented each of you with a handout, the fact that we have great challenges, and it's frustrating, and I think thus the reason for the exodus of teachers, the fact that, you know, it was implemented haphazardly as I see it, And again, it's not a user-friendly instrument to date. We have not evaluated our teachers, even with those who are just SLT, held to student learning targets, because of the fact that we were approved by, or we sought approval from the Department of Ed to use a product, Observation 360, and we have yet to have it uploaded into CIS. So this presents a challenge. Also, there are issues when teachers are transferred to our district from other districts. There are some concerns. We have to wait, make contact. It's not, the system is has some concerns, and we need, I would ask Superintendent White, and I don't think the concern is unique to St. Martin Parish, that we speed up the process in getting this system corrected so that we can proceed with the evaluation process. We have many of our teachers, and now our leaders are out on summer break, but to finish the evaluation process, they're going to be asked to come back on their personal time to receive the evaluation. So I'm bringing this to your attention so that we can correct this issue, particularly as it relates to the CIS process. Also, I want to point out that, you know, the suggestions made yesterday about our traditional teachers, I might add that with the Common Core implementation, and the comments made by the students who were brought here to speak in support of TFA, that these individuals work long hours, or so do our traditional educators. They are putting together a curriculum, not even knowing the future with regard to PARC, what it looks like. Yes, there are sample items and so forth, but everything is a moving target. And you know, I just want you as a board, it's so easy to sit back and be judgmental of teachers, whether they're TFA, traditional. The fact remains, the challenges are there, and it doesn't do anyone any good to hear the labels placed, the criticism when they're hardworking. They're at school late at night. They're in classrooms on weekends, and they're summer they spend in professional development, professional learning activities. So once again, I wanted to bring to light, and I've given you in writing the concerns related to CIS, and moving forward with Compass. Again, I think there are discrepancies. The great concern is the fact that we know it's a flawed instrument when we look at VAM, and then the fact that we're holding teachers to different standards. And that's what I'm saying about, I mean, that's my view regarding educational reform. There are double standards as I see it. Some laws apply to charters. You don't have to have certified teachers. Traditional schools should have certified teachers. So again, the double standards.
Appreciate your comments, Dr. Beebe. I'd like to recognize the superintendent to respond.
Could you repeat that? No, just kidding. Just wanted to respond to a couple things. First of all, I think you'll be surprised to hear me say I agree with a good bit of what you just said. I agree that we shouldn't have a two-track system in Compass. We should be providing information to administrators for them to make decisions. Value added is one source of information. Student learning targets is another. They should be using both. I agree with you. Second, I would agree with you about the Compass information system. As with any new technology, we've got to make it better, got to make the process easier. That's what technology is there for. It's there to make the process smooth. We want to make it as smooth as possible, and I appreciate your feedback. We had a group of superintendents in last week who provided feedback on it, and I agree with some of your concerns. Third, and probably most importantly, I agree with your comments about traditional educators. I was with 2,000 teachers last week, our teacher leaders. I've assumed some of them are alternately certified. I assume most of them are traditionally certified. And, you know, I'll just tell you, there's not a finer group of people, not anywhere in our state, anywhere in our country. Quite literally. No question about it. And they're representative of the 50,000 teachers that exist in the state. The only thing that I would disagree with you about is the insinuation that whenever anyone insists on change, that's somehow an insult to those who are part of the institution. I'm a part of the institution. I've spent my entire education career in public education, and whether or not you view that as what the truth is about me or not, ultimately, we're all part of this together. And when a harsh word is said about an educator, it's said about all of us. At the same time, if we don't insist on progress, then we're not doing our job that we should have to do in the first place. Dr. Beebe, I think if you look back at the records from last night, what I said is very clear. You said that we should just knock on the door of we've got 60,000 kids in F schools. You said we should knock on the door of our schools of higher education. I didn't oppose that. I just said that we tried that already. We've tried to find math and science teachers there, to go to St. Helena Parish, to go to Point Coupee Parish, to go to North Baton Rouge, to go to South Caddo, North Caddo. We've tried to find people to go to those parts of the state in math and science and special education, and we haven't. And then I said, we've tried that, and we've got too many F schools. Dr. Beebe, I would imagine you would agree with me. We have too many kids, 60,000 in F-rated schools. I would imagine you agree with me, we shouldn't just try and do the same old thing that we've done before. That's not any disrespect to traditional educators. It's to say we haven't been able to find the traditional educators for those places. The best people we have in our state, the single best citizens, the people on whose back the future of this state is going to be improved, are our traditional educators and our alternative educators. And as you well know, when I was in school, I was alternative certified. The closest teachers, my mentors, were traditional certified. We didn't show up to work every day asking where we got our certifications. We showed up to work asking how we could help our kids. I know you and I share that, and I thank you for your comments.
Appreciate it. I'd like to move, we need a motion to approve item 3. Is there a motion to approve item 3?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. Item 6, I believe Mr. Garvey asked to pull.
Yes, should I read it, or should Ms. Beebe handle that?
Ms. Beebe, if you would read item 6 and then allow Mr. Garvey to comment.
On motion of Dr. Beebe, seconded by Mr. Romer, the Educator Effectiveness Committee recommends that the board grant the issuance of a Louisiana teaching certificate appropriate to the credentials of Mr. Roddy Shawstone.
Okay, yes, there were a couple of BESE members that had some questions about possible probationary provisions to add to this item, and the staff needs a little time to research those issues, so I am making a motion that we defer on this item until our next meeting.
There's a motion to defer, and there's a second by Ms. Bradford. Is there any objection to defer to, I assume that's to the next meeting?
Next meeting.
To the next meeting?
I didn't understand there was any question.
Mr. Garvey, if you would like to explain it further.
Yes, there was some question by some BESE members about whether we can add some probationary items to the approval, whereby if the applicant, if you want to put that label on it, would have to live up to the probationary items in order to retain the approval.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a substitute motion that we approve the recommendation of the committee yesterday to grant certification.
Okay, there's a second substitute motion. Is there a second for a substitute motion?
I'll second it.
There is a second. Discussion on the substitute motion. Any member? Ms. Hill.
I think in this process that we are so inconsistent when we are granting these certifications, because there are times where I've seen that we've granted certifications on individuals that have had cases maybe worse than this particular case on yesterday. So there's no consistency, and I think most people are, when they make their decision, is based on their values and their own judgment in reference to the case. So I think as a board, we need to look at policy to where we're more consistent pertaining to various cases, because some of the cases that we approve, I probably would have never approved. And some cases that we have not approved, I probably would have. So I think that's something we should look at instead of, so we won't be biased towards an individual based on our own personal values and our own personal judgment. So I just have to make that.
I appreciate it. Comments, any other member?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just coming from the position we spent more time on this item yesterday than we normally do with those certification requests. I thought it was thoroughly discussed.
I think several members questioned that decision at the end of the day, and I think they were requesting deferral. So, but right now, the item that is on the board for consideration that does have a second is to approve item 6. Is there objection to approving item 6? There's objection. I'd like a roll call vote on item 6, please.
Yes, sir. The motion of Mr. Lee, seconded by Ms. Hill, to approve the motion as recommended by committee. Dr. Beebe?
Yes.
Dr. Beebe votes yes. Ms. Bophy?
No.
Ms. Bophy votes no. Ms. Bradford?
No.
Ms. Bradford votes no. Mr. Garvey?
No.
Mr. Garvey votes no. Mr. Gio?
No.
Mr. Gio votes no. Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Hill votes yes. Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Lee votes yes. Dr. Moranti?
No.
Dr. Moranti votes no. Ms. Orange Jones is absent. Mr. Waguespack is absent. Mr. Romer, do you care to vote?
The motion fails. It doesn't have enough votes. We'll go to the original motion, which was to defer this item. There was a motion by Mr. Garvey, seconded by Ms. Bradford. Is there objection to the motion to defer?
Object.
There's objection. A roll call vote, please.
Yes, sir.
I don't see it calls for a roll call vote. I think we know how the vote's going. Evidently there was some conversation that some of us don't know anything about.
Well, that's why I think we ought to have a roll call vote, so we can be on the record on who wants to defer this item. So that's what we'll do.
You know it's going to be the same vote you just had.
But I think the record needs to indicate that we took a vote on the item. So we're going to take a vote on the item. Roll call vote.
Okay. The motion on the floor is to defer the certification appeal of Mr. Rodney Chasson until August 2013. Dr. Beebe?
No.
Dr. Beebe votes no. Ms. Bophy?
Yes.
Ms. Bophy votes yes. Ms. Bradford?
Yes.
Ms. Bradford votes yes. Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey votes yes. Mr. Gio?
Yes.
Mr. Gio votes yes. Ms. Hill?
No.
Ms. Hill votes no. Mr. Lee?
No.
Mr. Lee votes no. Dr. Moranti?
Yes.
Dr. Moranti votes yes. Mr. Orange Jones is absent. Mr. Waguespack is absent. Mr. Romer, do you care to
Yes.
vote? Mr. Romer votes yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The motion passes.
Wasn't that a surprise vote?
Is there any other business? We have one more piece of business. I will ask next item, Ms. Cope.
The next item is item 7.1, consideration of the appointment of Andrew Kemp to the position of Administration and Research Associate for the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, effective May 28, 2013.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Chair, if I may speak to the item.
Yes, please.
Board members, as I let you all know, Ann Allen took another position with another organization, so it left me with a vacancy. And I hired Andrew Kemp. Andrew, if you can stand, to take the position of Administration and Research Associate. Andrew comes to us with a bachelor's degree and an MBA. He has most recently worked in university athletics development, so he has a lot of experience working with boards. He has also previously worked at the U.S. Department of Education and for a congressman in D.C., so he has a great background in education policy and research. So in his role where he will be supporting the board in its business and then also supporting you all in working with constituents and responding to research requests, I feel like he has a great skill set to fill that position. So I would very much appreciate you all ratifying his appointment today.
Is there a motion? First of all, welcome. I guess we ought to ratify you before I welcome you. It might not be a great welcome. Is there any objection to the ratification? Hearing none, you're so ratified. Welcome. We appreciate your work. We thought yesterday may have scared you off. I'm surprised to see you here today, but welcome and we appreciate it. Members, we do have to return to the item that Ms. Beebe had asked us to check regarding Mr. Bennett's appointment. And in fact, Ms. Beebe, although it's not completely clear in the wording, I believe you're correct, that due to Mr. Bennett's service on this board, we cannot appoint him to that committee. Therefore, if we have the list, I will present a alternative private school.
I think it's Anna. Yeah.
La Riviere.
Anna
La
Riviere, and she is from?
She is she's a superintendent
Diocese of Lafayette, Superintendent of Schools in Lafayette. So as an alternative, I would present that, if somebody else would make that motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any objection?
I'd like to discuss it.
Oh, yes, Mr. Lee.
We've had active board members serve on committees. I guess I don't understand what's the problem.
It's law, Mr.
Well, I think it's the problem says it says no former member of a board or commission for a period of 2 years following the termination of his public service on such board or commission, contract with, be employed in any capacity by, or be appointed to any position by that board or commission.
Just something doesn't add up, that it's okay for an active member to sign, to serve, but not a former member.
I don't know that I mean, I don't disagree with you, Mr. Lee, but I'm looking at the language and the need to consider, and we had two fine candidates, and no one's suggesting that Mr. Bennett wasn't a fine candidate.
I understand, I'm just saying that.
I appreciate it. And we may need to clarify that in next legislative session if we wish. So is there no objection to the motion? Hearing none, so moved, and that concludes our business. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you, Superintendent.